Hi everybody, this is Peeriewinkle. Amy is my real name, and this is Peeriewinkle Vlog 4. I'm gonna try and keep it a tea break vlog this time, so under 15 minutes, I hope. It shouldn't be too long this time. In this vlog, I have some knitting to show you and some spinning that I've been doing, and a little bit of an update about the TKGA knitting course. To start off with my knitting, I have started on a nice hat, even despite the fact that we have tropical temperatures here now, because I got that lovely Collinet art yarn in Oxford, and I just couldn't resist having a go with that. The yarn is lovely and squishy, and it has a nice mix of greens and blues and some pinks, a bit of purple in it. So I thought a nice hat with a nice pattern, not too complicated. So I'll just unfold the border there. It's just a very simple bit of garter stitch and then a knit one purl to some more garter, well, not really garter stitch, it's one purl, one knit row. And the original pattern that I based this on is the Hogsmeade hat by Auntie Karen Knits. It's a free one, you can find it on Ravelry and then get started. So the original pattern only calls for just one repeat and then knit the rest of it, but I thought it would be nice to knit a bit more of that with the pattern, and then you can turn it over, nice wee flap, and then I'm starting on the knit bit now, and then see where I need to add the repeats, the decreases for the rest of the hat. So that is one pattern, nice and fast because this is on 5mm needles. And the other project that I have started on is the My Heaven shawl, which is a bit more complicated, and I have a bit of help here. I have my pattern on a mat, sort of like it's a booklet, which so I can close it over when I'm not using it. And because it's metallic, I've got some magnets on it, so I can basically see what row on my mat. I've got two, one for the odd rows and one for the even rows, so you can see I'm at the start of the next repeat now, so that tonight I can just immediately continue where I left off. And it's a very nifty way, very handy way to knit whenever you're doing lace, complicated patterns. I like doing it that way, so I don't get lost whenever I'm called to do something or want to make myself a cup of coffee and then lose my rows and don't know where I am. The pattern actually, it's also a free pattern from Ravelry. I'll just get the proper front for you. It's true lace pattern, and see, My Heaven shawl by a designer called Patusha, and it's from 2011, so it's a few years old, so I hope that the version that I downloaded no longer has any mistakes in it. I haven't found any yet, so fingers crossed. I also find a fun way, I think I saw that on Tom of Holland, who had it on his blog. Whenever he knits something and it's quite long and you don't want to have it lugging about in your lap, why not roll it up and put a wee knot around it? So that's what I've done. I think I have about, because first this shawl calls for the edging to be knit first, so you've got a really long strip of edging, and and you twist and turn. It's not very handy if you have it as a long strip, so I roll it up, and this has about let me see, I think about 22 repeats, so I'm almost halfway, and so it'll be become a bit heavier, this wee bundle, but I find it's quite a handy way of keeping your knitting together. The yarn is lace yarn, and it's dyed by Lorette Karman, who's a Dutch yarn designer, and she has lovely color palettes, not just in lace yarn, but lots of different varieties from very thin lace to thicker yarn to knit with, and she's very inspired by Van Gogh. This one obviously isn't, because it's just a variegated pink one. It's a lovely shade. I've tried knitting a few patterns with it in combination with other yarns, but it just didn't really work out. It just cried out for a lace shawl, so why not a lace shawl? So that's what I'm doing now. So those are the two knitting projects that I'm working on, and I have a bit of startitis, so there might be a few more in the foreseeable future. What I also promised myself after the last blog is that from then on, it was 2 weeks ago, I was going to set myself a spinning challenge every week, and it all started because I saw Amanda, dear friend of mine, work on some an art yarn. I think it was boucle, and I was like, I have a book with lots and lots and lots of these techniques. I haven't done anything with it. It's actually a bit of a shame. So I decided to get this book out. It's a lovely book. It's Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs, and it's got 80 yarns in it to make. And I actually have a nifty something I should show you, so I'm just gonna run out and get it. Okay, one moment. And she's back in the room, because with that book come a lot of cards for the various yarns that you can spin, and at the back of the book there's a wee space where you can put your cards in, your reference cards, and whenever you're spinning a yarn you can get it out, and you know, it's a bit of a visual aid. But I thought, hey, I'm gonna be clever, and I laminated them all. So it took me a while. I think I only fitted 4 or 6 of these on an A4 sheet, and there's quite a few, as you can see. And then I put them on a ring, and on a wee keyring holder, which absolutely has no use, but hey, it's just, that's how it came. It's quite handy because I can basically just, you know, look up one and fold it over and just hold it in front of me, or even lay it down, and then I can, hey, boucle, and see what I'm doing. So my challenge for last week was making zigzag yarns, and I had lots and lots and lots of stash wool to use. I think some of them I showed you. Actually, I decided to use 2 yarns that were given out at the Landelijk Spindag 2 years ago. We got 4 varieties because we had an anniversary, and we had seasons, 4 seasons, and the one I used was this is the winter one, and this is a summer one, and I made zigzag yarns from both of them. And I had more. I bought more from all the seasons. So this is how the winter one came out. I think that was really successful. I loved how this came out. It wasn't half as hard as I thought it would be. I'm not a very good thick spinner, as you can see. There's quite a lot of slobs in there, but slubs in there. But I'm getting better at it. So I think it's a process as well, you know. And as you can see, it hangs pretty balanced. So I was really happy with that one. This one was a bit harder, as you can also see. It's not as balanced as the other one. Because this has different types of fiber in it. It's got some flax in it, some silk merino, I think, so I'm not quite sure. But anyway, so it was harder to pull out, to draft this wool. So same again, you know, there's a lot of thin and thick bits, and then also with the plying, I just overplied, basically. That's what happened. And so it's a bit less balanced, but it also came out really nice. It's a lovely grey yarn. So I haven't decided what to make with these. I think they would, even the combination would work really well, and who knows what I'll be making of them. But anyway, so that's that was last week's challenge. This week I thought I'd make cocoons, and I'll just show you what they look like in the book. Hang on, page 2. to bear with me. So this is how they were supposed to turn out in the book here. These a nice balanced single yarn with cocoons, and so it has a really good description on how to do it. It's basically a step-by-step description. So you basically what you just do is you just read the description and you follow what you have to do, and it gives you some tips for finishing touches and all that. So basically that is what the plan was, and mine came out like this. It's again horribly overspun, and not all my cocoons are the same size. As you see, this, I think that big, this one was like the first one, and I realized, oh, I'm putting way too much fiber on my cocoons, and then I had ones which are like tiny, like this one's much smaller, and then a few ones were pretty good. So again, you know, it didn't come out perfectly, but I've got a nice wee bracelet, which is pretty funky. My husband's already calling me Mrs. Batman Jihadi thing. For those who are in England, you know who I mean. No, I don't want to be compared to her, but anyway, it's just a fun technique to try, and next time I'll be a bit more careful, not put too much spinning, not much twist in my fiber. And I'm also going to try and use a different fiber to make my cocoons with, because these had really, like, because it was silk, had like enormous long staples, so it was really hard to get it nice and to twist round. So, but you know, it's a process. You learn and you make mistakes. So maybe next week my efforts will be a bit more successful. The idea is to actually make boucle next week, so I'm just trying to get some nice yarn out. I think I have a nice mohair which I can use, I think as a core or somewhere in that whole process. It's again, it's a multi-step spinning yarn, so that should be fun to do. Basically, there's one more thing I want to show you, because with the knitting, I also have a wee knitting bowl, but I just don't have a normal knitting bowl. This is my wee knitting bowl. Isn't she gorgeous? And this one actually had the ear fall off once, because I'm not very careful with my stuff. But as you can see, this is basically my yarn just sits in here, goes around, and then I knit. Really handy to use. I've got two of these actually. My mum saw them at an art fair and I said, bring me one, and then she brought two because she knows me. So this is my little Baba Black White Sheep, and she basically sits next to me on the sofa whenever I'm spinning. Oh yeah, the last bit I wanted to talk to you about my TKGA. I have been going through my swatches and I've decided to re-knit a few of them. So not this week probably, because this is the last week of the summer holidays and I'll be pretty busy with some work deadlines and also getting the kids ready for school. So I've decided to restart the TKGA next week and basically have a dedicated night. What I'm just gonna do and sit at the table and knit. Go through the questions again, so who knows whenever I'll be finished, but I'm just gonna go onto the forums and see if I can get somebody who can give me a kick up the backside to get this thing done and sent off to America, and then I can continue with some other projects. So if you have any ideas about project I can knit, for instance, I have another skein of that lovely Colin Knit Art, a bit more pink. If you have a nice pattern that I can make from that, let me know. Similarly, what's your favorite lace pattern? Because I love lace. I love knitting lace. I have a friend who's a great lace knitwear designer, Monique Boonstra, and also known as Kantwerk, and she makes lovely Shetland ones, which is also true lace. So if you're interested in lace knitting, just look at her work and buy her designs, because it's always good to sponsor a good, talented designer. More news hopefully next week, if not next week, in 2 weeks time. Okay, bye bye.